Good morning, everybody. Hi, Devon Dames here from Devon Dames International. And I wanted to at least have a brief intro of our next guest because he is one of the brokers at his own agency, but he is actually a broker that put packages together for the SBA. So for those of you who are doing loans with the Small Business Administration, he would be one of these individuals that put the package together for you just to help you along the process and walk you through the whole process of getting your notes approved. And even if the SBA can't approve you, then they would seek other funding sources for you. Now, his name is Frank Scannavino. He is a CPA and he owns his own company. And we got together maybe about 2 years ago when I was looking for refi through the SBA, and we were able to leverage his packaging to help our business out. Now, most individuals who own companies, over a period of time, you realize sometimes your cash flow is not what you want it to be, and that can create a situation for you whereby you need to regenerate or revalue your financial outlook and just restructure your financial cash flow so that you can have better terms, not only for yourself, but for the lifeblood of your company. If you're not managing cash in your company, then something is really wrong. Or maybe you're just that uber wealthy. But we wanted to bring Frank on and talk about what that process going through the SBA was like. For us, I know it was difficult the first time we did it because it was like open heart surgery for the very first time. But when we did a refi, then it made total sense for our company in order for us to leverage that knowledge. And we want to share that knowledge with you. And hopefully he will give you some insight as to how that process can help you design your business in a way whereby you now have added tools to help you along your journey. So follow us as we go through our interview with Frank Scannavino here in Melbourne, Florida. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon. This is Devon Dames International coming to you live from the Crown Plaza in Melbourne, Florida. And today we have a guest known as Frank Scannavino, who is one of the most important fellas in my life at this particular time, primarily because when I was looking for funding, I knocked on Frank's door, and ultimately he gave me the magic answer. Yes, Devon, I will help you. So today we wanted to talk about funding and to see exactly how Frank can help others out there looking for the very same things. So if you're in a business and you find that funding is one of your avenues, then by all means, give Frank Scannavino a call. Hi, Frank. Welcome to Florida.
Hi, Devon. Thank you.
Yeah, your last name is such a doozy.
It's Scannavino.
Scannavino.
Yes.
So I've been pronouncing it since the first
Well,
day.
you'll have to know, to kill for wine. That's
Yes.
what Scannavino is. So.
Well, that's an excellent meaning. So I sense a little Italian there.
Yes, I am.
Yes. Now you're based in Las Vegas.
Yes. Our office, first of all, hello, everyone. Again, I'm Frank Scannavino. My company is International Marketing Group, and we are a packaging and processing company for both debt and equity financing. So when Devon came to us with his package, we went through his program. We really liked his project, and we found a funding source for his project. So we were very happy to complete that.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And as you know, we are educating individuals through a podcast via audio and visual about funding and how to expand their business from one stage to the next. Now, I can go through all the wonderful avenues as to what you have done for us, but quite frankly, it was scary for me to really go through a funding process because it was always like open heart surgery for me. And you made the process very easy for me to understand and comprehend as we move forward so that our company can grow to the level that it is today. But explain to the audience, what does that mean for someone to walk through your doors and request funding and go through the underwriting process? How easy is it? And what made you get into that business in the first place?
Well, I'm actually a former practicing CPA, but I actually started my first business in 1985. So I've been an entrepreneur over 30 years and opened and run my own companies. That gave me a better insight into helping clients present their businesses in a best light in order to get funding. It has been very difficult since the recession in order to find a funding source that's willing to do the funding that they need because of all the regulations that have passed over the last 7-8 years. And it's made it much more difficult for the banks to go through the process. And in fact, prior to about 7 or 8 years ago, there were no such thing as packaging companies for SBA loans. But the SBA themselves realized it's such a complicated process for any individual company to go through that it would be better to have professionals work with them. And so what they've done is they've regulated everything where we as packaging companies can go to a client where all the fees are regulated, all of the terms, interest rates are regulated. So now they have a professional firm that can help them go through that process that's difficult.
Now, in order for any individual to start the process, what do they need?
Well, the first thing we always do is we would need to review the client themselves to make sure they are eligible to apply for a loan. In fact, as far as SBA is concerned, they require that, and we do that for any clients. Before we contract with the client, we want to make sure that they're eligible to apply for the loan. And there's for a company in business more than 2 full years, they look at 3 simple things. They look at the backgrounds of the owners of the business, specifically their credit background. They look to see what collateral is available, a loan, and most importantly, they want to see the cash flow, that there's a certain coverage ratio on a global cash flow that we have to do in order to make sure that the client is eligible. And if it's a company in business less than 2 years or a startup business, we also need to see the experience, the industry experience of the owners. For instance, I tell people, if you're a truck driver, I can't get you a loan to open up a restaurant. But if you're a chef or you've managed a restaurant, yes, then I can work with you in getting you a loan for a restaurant. And then the second thing they look at is they want to see the owners put some equity in. They need to see some skin in the game from the owners, normally 25 to 30%. If they can come up with that and have the industry background, plus the other 3 items we talked about, then we have a chance to get them a loan.
Excellent. Now, what type of money are we talking about in terms of going after a loan where those elements that you've mentioned apply?
We look at, basically the SBA will go down to very low amounts. We normally work in $150,000 and above range, but we will do loans lower than that depending on the company. Again, because I've been an entrepreneur all my life, I really like working with young entrepreneurs and helping them get their businesses started, and sometimes they only need $75,000 to $100,000, so I will work with them in order to get that. There isn't a lot of money to be made, but again, it's looking at future business with that company. So that's why we really like that, to work with them. So we can work with as low as $100,000 on up. For the SBA, it's $5 million on a standard program. And then for a 504, which really gets into real estate, can go up to about $13 million.
Wow.
Some odd dollars on a 504 loan for the SBA. But we do a lot more than SBA loans. We also do standard commercial loans because the SBA has some requirements where some businesses cannot apply for it. So, for instance, in order to do a commercial real estate loan, the company has to occupy a minimum of 51% of the business of the building of their business. But if you're looking at a place, say in New York City, that has the business on the first floor and 3 stories of apartments,
Yes.
a multi-use, they can't qualify. It's just they can't occupy 51%. So we do have a lot of standard commercial loans that we also do.
Now, structuring these deals, I'm sure there are tons of people that you come across. What is your worst client for you?
Well, one of the problems we have with the clients are most small businesses are started by tradesmen. These are not real business people. So they have a particular trade. And it could be a chef opening up a restaurant. It is a much different application to actually run a business than it is the actual business itself. Okay? And that's where we run into a lot of problems, is that they don't understand the process that we need to go through and all of the information we're going to need to create to help them put a proper package together for them to get their financing.
Exactly.
So that's where we come into a lot of issues.
Okay. Now, that's your worst client. What's your best client?
My best client is a client that actually has some financial background to what they're doing, and they fully understand. They've already worked with banks in the past. Excuse me, but they already know the process, so it's easy for them to go through. So, for instance, I've just signed up a gentleman that's in an amazing a business that's in a scaffolding business. But he actually has an accounting degree. So he'll be a great client to work with. I send him the information of what I need, and he's like, not a problem, I'll get it all for you, because he has that background. So he has a little bit of financial background to help out. So those are the easier clients. It doesn't make a difference the dollar amount, Devon. I'm telling you, it's just as difficult to get a $100,000 loan as it is a $500,000 loan. That's why we try to stick to $150,000 and above, but the process you go through is really the same, regardless of the dollar amount, for a loan application.
Yes. So I'm just fortunate that I was in the right place at the right time with an accounting degree to work along with you.
Yes, correct. That's exactly
perfect.
That's exactly the reason why. So, for instance, your wife is a doctor. If we had to deal with her directly, it would have been a much more difficult process, because she just does not have that background on the financial side in order to put together everything that would be needed, as you know, what we had to go through in order to finally get the approval.
Well, that's amazing. What has been your propensity to stay in this industry?
The main reason, as I said, to go back a little bit, I have been an entrepreneur my whole life. And I'm very proud of that fact, that somehow, some way. But I have to say, I've had great success. I have made millions, and I have lost millions. So I am the typical entrepreneur over a 30 period of time on that roller coaster. So I've been on both sides, and I understand. So I really love, I am a little bit of a workaholic, so I really love, to me, work is not work.
Yes.
It's pleasure. And I really enjoy what I do by going out and visiting, like we did with you, to be able to work with an entrepreneur and help them run their business and get their business up to success. In fact, we've had some clients come back to us 2 or 3 times for funding over the last 10 years, because they really like the fact that we help them and we keep them growing. And in fact, there's something we do that no other packaging company does for these small SBA loans.
Yes.
We actually give the client a consulting agreement for at least a year's period of time. Because if they take off and they need more funding, we want to make sure they come back to us. Or if they have a problem and they're going to have a problem with the bank and paying the bank, we want to get involved early, because remember, that's our funding source. We don't want to look bad to our funding source that we gave them a bad deal. So we'll work with the funding source through if a client has a problem to try to extend and help them the best we can. So we actually give the client, we make a success fee on the back end, as every does, and part of that, although we don't have to, we give them a consulting agreement that will help them over the next year, and there's certain things that we do at no cost. Some things do have costs involved, but we'll help them through the process, at least for a year's period of time.
Now, as I worked through the process, and I understood your system very clearly, for us, we actually got a friend out of the deal.
Yes.
Because
yes,
it's no longer just business talk that we talk now. It's more or less, okay, we went through a process. Now we can elevate that conversation into other areas. And why I brought that up is because normally when you go get a loan, you figure that you're only going to do the application after that process is done. That applicant is gone. But quite frankly, even for us, we feel as if we're in a family of protected individuals who care about our well-being and who care about our success. That's how you made us feel.
And that's exactly why we give that agreement, where we do a consulting agreement that's past that. Even though we don't have to do that, we do it because we want to foster that type of relationship. You know, one of the things I did, I owned a company in South Florida many years ago, and we were distributors around the world. We had product we distributed around the world. And I really loved the distribution model.
Yes.
And so I've brought that to this company that I now own, where basically 99% of my deals come through affiliates who work with me and refer deals to me, as opposed to going out and knocking on doors and saying, do you need a loan? So what I've done is I've done that same type of distribution model through my affiliates throughout the country. One of the reasons why I travel as much as I do is the fact that I have a lot of people all across the country that refer deals to us, and that's how we get our business. But that fosters a relationship, a different type of relationship with not only my affiliates, but then the clients themselves.
Yeah.
So it builds a really nice, almost like a family group we are, where we can help each other. In fact, I have referred businesses to other businesses to do business with. So I've done that before, and they cross themselves, and I help a company get some business for somebody else that I've gotten a loan for. So it really that family type business is what I really look for.
Well, that's exactly what our next question is. In that, let's say you couldn't get an applicant the SBA product that they wanted, and you were able to see other opportunities out there that they may have qualified for. How did you go, or how did you meet those individuals in order to tie their needs? And even if you abdicate yourself out of the project, why is it that you go out of your way to make sure they get sorted out?
In every situation, I always believe there's a yes answer somewhere.
Yes.
Now, the yes answer may not be viable, so they may not be able to handle that yes answer, but there's always a yes answer. And to me, business is a long-term process. It's not a one-off. There isn't one deal that I can close that I can say, that's it, I'm retired, let's go home, let's go to the beach. There isn't one business. So you have to foster business over a long period of time. And so that's why you want to develop that relationships. Now, one of my always in looking at building a successful business is you have to know your strengths and weaknesses, and you have to know the people who work with you, their strengths and weaknesses. Our strength is doing deals up to about 5 to 10 million directly.
Yes.
Any deal above that, I work with people who are experienced in being able to bring that type of financing to the table. Now, we still involved a lot of times in helping the client put together maybe a business plan or a package, but the fact is, I'm not going to try to hide the client. I want the client to succeed. And if I do not have a direct lender that I can use or direct equity funding source, then I will refer it out, and I have a lot of other groups of funding sources that we can refer them to for them to get their financing. Now, yes, of course, we don't make the money we would normally make, but that's okay. As long as the client gets funded, that's a win-win for us.
Well, for us, you are a rare commodity because prior to you coming into our lives, you have individuals at the local bank level who can match your needs to only a certain extent. However, when you walked in, and whether it was an SBA product or private equity or private lender, you were able to resolve that very comfortably for us. And it gave us a sense of reassurance that there is never a shortage of money, as you said. There's this yes that you need to get to. And what a client has to look like in order to get that yes answer is vital for their success. Now, where do you see regulations going from your personal experience in the next 5 to 10 years as it relates to the funding of projects, whether it be in this country or outside of this country? Where do you see that?
The problem we have in this country in particular is that politicians make laws and rules not understanding the unintended consequences that happen from their decisions. The Dodd-Frank law is the perfect example of something that has a higher thought process of saying this is something good for the public, good for consumers. But in the end, what really happened was it killed funding to small businesses. It just killed small businesses because it required the banks now to take less risk. And if the bank is going to take less risk, that means small businesses aren't going to get loans. And that's what's been fun. I don't want you to one thing I want to clarify. When I say there's a yes answer to everything, that is because we go through that preliminary process first. But I want to understand, when we look at, for every 10 businesses we look at, we probably only work with 2 to 3 of those companies.
Yes.
All right? Now, the other companies, what we do is we tell them what they need to become eligible, but those people are going to have to do something to become eligible before we can work with them. But those 2 to 3 people we do take on as a loan, we will be able to get them something.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Whether it's the total amount they need or whether we can work with them in getting. Now, some customers, we actually got them more than what they asked for. I have a client that asked for $100,000. The bank wanted to give him $150,000, and he got his $150,000. Right? I have other clients wanted $500,000, and I can get them $350,000. So that's a compromise that we make. But those 2 to 3 who we know have at least, of those 5 items I spoke about in the beginning, if they have at least 3 of the 5, we can get them something, and that's where we work. And the reason we can do that, Devon, it's very interesting. When I also became a certified SBA loan consultant under the government's program. And the benefit for that was for clients to feel comfortable working with us. To say, okay, they're certified under the program, they actually must know what they're doing, all right? So that's the reason we got it. But the biggest benefit was, as soon as I became certified, I got a list of over 200 banks and funding sources across the country that would do business with us. Now, of course, we don't do business with that many. We do business with probably 15 different banks and funding sources. But that gave us the ability to package a deal and match it to the bank. What people don't realize is that although the SBA has their requirements, every bank has their own.
Yes.
So, for instance, the SBA may say, we can do a deal as low as 620 on a credit score, okay? But there are banks out there that say, I don't care what they say, we won't do a deal unless they have a 700 credit score. Yes. So if I have a client with a 650 credit score, I'm certainly not going to bring them to that bank. So the secret to our success is being able to match the package when it's completed to the funding source that'll do that deal based on the information in that package. And so that's part of how we work.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I obviously love it.
Yeah.
You mentioned Dodd-Frank. Do you ever feel Sarbanes-Oxley get in the way also of some of your deals?
Some of them do, but I would say the Dodd-Frank law is the one that really hurt business. I don't think I'm really, but we've gone past that. As we were speaking at another time, we don't make the rules, right? I mean, we just don't. We don't make the rules.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
But you're not going to find anybody who plays the game better than we do, and that's where the success comes into play. So even in the future, whether there's more regulation, we will figure out a way and find the proper funding sources so we can continue to help customers and businesses get funding.
Now, some of our audience is international. And for me, coming from the islands, namely the Bahamas, it was difficult for me to get started here in terms of finding funding. However, after I became a citizen of the United States, that opened up all types of possibilities. Did you ever face in your career a non-citizen of the United States getting funding through an SBA, or even, let's say, a green card holder? What were the difficulties in something like that?
It is, under the SBA law, you have to have a citizen who is at least part owner of the business, and you have to have somebody with a green card. They have to have, at least have a green card for us to get the financing. And a lot of times, if that's not the case, we'll just do a standard commercial loan as opposed to an SBA loan, if that's the situation. So we don't find that to be as much of a problem as it would be if you're here in the U.S.
Yes.
and you have a green card and you're here. We can get around and figure out a way to get a loan.
But let's say you have someone with a lot of money from South America, Central America, through the Caribbean, and they now want to invest in the American dream. But they don't have a green card and they don't have a citizenship, but they do have partners willing to take on the general liability
Correct.
of that company.
And that's how we would do it. As I said, remember what I said. They have to have maybe a partner who's a U.S. citizen
Correct.
who they can partner with, and then we can also look at doing that under an equity situation. So maybe we can bring an equity partner to the table depending on the size of the project and the amount of investment that the outside person is willing to invest into this program. So for instance, right now I'm working with a Canadian company that is going to partner with a company in Brooklyn. They want to partner with that company. They actually want to put a couple of $1 million in, and they want a few $1 million in funding.
Yes.
So we're working with them. But their partner is a U.S. company that they're partnering with. So it'll be a 50-50 ownership. So that's how we would get around that situation.
That was my next question. Is there a limitation as to how much ownership can they own?
Yeah, 50% is what
Is the
we
max,
look
is the
at.
cap?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
That's what we look at for an SBA. But for
Yes.
commercial, it could be anything. You can own 99% as long as the bank is willing to give them the money. So that's on a commercial loan, completely different. There's none of that SBA regulations for that.
Well, that is huge.
Yeah.
That is huge.
But we do a lot. We can do a lot of these equity deals, as we did working with you on bringing in an equity partner to fund the deal. We have a couple of different sources, both for seed money and mezzanine financing, so we can look at both types of programs. So, yeah, so that's what we do. We put it together, and then what happens is we will pass it off to those people, and you work directly with those groups to get that funding.
Now, being in this industry, what was your best day ever?
My blue sky day. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, your blue sky days.
A blue sky day.
No, every state have a different blue sky law.
Yeah.
But is that applicable to you?
Yeah. A blue sky day is a day where, I mean, everything lines up perfectly, which
Yeah.
is very rare, right? That's what we call a blue sky day. And of course, for us, it's closing. It's not even getting approvals, because it is. I've always said packaging is only half the job.
Yes.
Once a bank actually sends you a commitment letter,
Yes.
the processing is much more dramatic and emotional than the packaging phase. So to get through that process and actually close, those are blue. When you close, those are blue sky days.
Blue sky days.
That's what they are. Yes, they are.
Now, if you were to start this whole process all over again, would you do the same thing?
Well, I would probably do it a little bit differently, not much, because I think we've done pretty well in putting our business together. Again, we're out throughout the country, although I live out in Las Vegas, and I have my business plan writer there, and my operations manager. My packaging people are here in Florida. My lending group is out of New York, New Jersey. So we're like a virtual type of business, which is great, which is, you
Yes.
can do that now.
We're not locked in.
30 years ago, there was no way we could do that, right?
Correct, yeah.
So it's really great that we have that ability to do that nowadays. So I'm not sure I would do much of anything different than we have. As I said, you look at two things. The recession really hurt.
Yes.
It really hurt. It
Yes.
hurt a lot of people, made it more difficult. But in the end, because of the recession, there's more SBA loans done. So
Yes.
that actually helped my business a little bit. But it made it more difficult for me, but it helped the business a little bit. So I'm not sure I would change much of anything of what we've done.
Okay. Well, Frank, in your years of experience, now that you've covered the gamut of being an entrepreneur and a certified SBA credentialed individual for loans, what would you say to an individual who wants to apply? What is that one character that they would need in order to push through, in order to succeed and not give up?
You mean as far as getting a loan?
As far as getting a loan. Because sometimes they're going to get rejected.
They have to be, right. You first of all, the key to this is it should take no longer than 3 weeks to package a loan to get to the funding sources. The main problem I have is getting the information that we need
Yes.
to put all the documentation together
Yes.
in order to get a file ready to submit to a funding source. That's where a lot of frustration for the client involved. And the reason for that is that they have a business to run every day.
Yes.
So it's like this is added stuff for them. So I try to say, give me somebody inside who I can work with. Give me your accountant directly. I'm a former practicing CPA. Give me your CPA.
Yes.
We speak the same language. Just give me them and I'll work with them. They'll know exactly what I need in order to put everything together. So that's the first hurdle that they have to get over. And then the next hurdle, obviously, like I said, the most emotional part is when the bank finally asks for more information, in which then they keep asking for more, they keep asking, yes, they keep asking for more.
Yes.
And we're going to keep giving it because we don't give up. Whatever they ask for, we're going to put you in the best light to give to the bank so that you can get your approval. That's emotional. And then once the loan, they get a commitment from the bank, they figured, oh, this is great. I can now just write close. No. That just means it went through underwriting. You still haven't been approved yet by the committee, by the credit committee, to go through another underwriting thing.
Yes.
There's still 3 more approval processes, even after you get your letter of intent from the bank. And to get them through that process. When I first started, that's one of the things I would change, okay? You want to know what I would change? When I first started, when a bank issued a letter of intent, what I did is I let the bank work directly with the client. Wow, that was a big mistake.
Get out.
Yeah, that was a huge mistake. That's why I had to bring someone in who had banking experience. And my VP of lending, her name is Sandy Bessois. She's over 25 years in banking. So she has the experience to take a client through that very traumatic and very emotional process, getting to the actual closing table and getting them closed. So that's the area that's the toughest for these clients. And so I tell them, you have to be patient.
Yes.
And when we ask you for something, as stupid as it may seem, this is what you have to give us. Because although we deal in common sense, banks and funding sources do not deal in common sense. Okay, they just don't. They have to work out of a book.
Yes.
And if the book says this is what they need, then that's what you get them. As ridiculous as it may be, this is what you get them. This is what you want. So getting them through that process so they're not so frustrated is what, where we really have to do our job.
Well, Frank, I know I took you over the time that we needed, but at the end of the day, how does someone reach you?
Well, what they're going to do is they can reach me directly on I travel quite a bit, so I want people to call me directly on my direct line.
Can you give that?
Yes, please. It's 503-3096. My email address is F as in Frank, S as in Sam, C as in Charlie, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, at I as in Ice, M as in Mary, Group, GROUP, LLC.com. And if they'll email me or call me directly, I'm more than happy to start the process, take care of them.
Well, you have given us a wealth of information. And the information that I heard that really made my wheels turn was that the matching process between banks and an individual can be arduous. And having a broker like yourself to help guide is an excellent idea for anybody going through the process. And I would recommend you to anybody, not only for what you did for us, but for the humanitarianism that I can see through you, in that you are one of the most helpful and hardworking individuals that I've met in the industry, getting you the right type of loans, not the predator type of loans.
Correct.
Those loans that actually benefit your business for growth. And as long as we stay on those lines, I think individuals are going to have a wonderful time. So by all means, this is Devon Dames at Devon Dames International. Please call Frank Scannavino for all your banking needs and all your lending problems. He will solve any situation for you. So once again, this has been Devon and Frank. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.